With one-on-one approach, he has helped clients navigate the challenges of starting, growing, and managing their businesses.
Normally, it happens that they generate the money,
Yeah,
but their main focus should be, and in most cases it is, to pay back to the community,
right.
which is not our scope today, is out of scope. Second is for profit. For profit means you are doing something to make money.
Wajid, once a business is established, right, the next question is, what defines success? Now, let's explore that.
This is the biggest mistake any businessman is
Yes.
making.
Employee retention can be a game changer for small businesses. Did you know that creating a purpose driven workplace culture can significantly improve retention rates? Hi, this is Kripa Anand, and welcome to the Canadian SME Small Business Podcast, where we empower Canadian entrepreneurs with valuable insights to build and grow their business. Today's special episode explores the journey from a salaried professional to a very successful business owner and the strategies to sustain growth and retain employees. Our guest today is Mr. Wajid Ahmed, a passionate entrepreneur based in Ontario. Wajid dedicates his work to supporting families and businesses by offering tailored solutions that meet their unique needs. With one-on-one approach, he has helped clients navigate the challenges of starting, growing, and managing their businesses. Wajid believes in creating lasting relationships, emphasizing trust, and empowering people through community-driven initiatives like free coffee meetings. All right, so let's get started. Wajid, welcome to the podcast. How are you doing today?
Good. And first of all, I want to thank you and SME especially for inviting me here to discuss the journey between the salary and the entrepreneurship successful. And then, of course, this is the opportunity to for the newcomers,
Yeah.
basically, especially coming to Canada and starting a new business, because they have very limited knowledge about this, how this whole era is working right now after the COVID, especially.
Right.
So, thanks again for
No,
having
it's
me.
our pleasure. And most of our listeners are entrepreneurs, small business owners. They are to journey where they want guidance from people like yourself. So let's begin the conversation. So let's begin by some stats first of all. According to a study by BDC, 40% of Canadians dream of starting their own business, but only a fraction make the leap or make it possible. Now, transitioning from a steady paycheck to entrepreneurship is often seen as one of the most challenging moves. Now, in a job, you have a salary that's coming. There's more of a comfort space. And entrepreneurship and business is all about taking a risk and being uncertain about what's going to come next. So, what's your take on that? What do you believe is the key motivation or the need for someone to, take a leap from a salaried position to their own business?
Okay. So before coming to this question, I just like to add some housekeeping items.
Mm-hmm.
So there are three basically items. First is disclaimer
Right.
on our part, because I'm a financial advisor, and this very important, because this is not a advice or suggestion to some particular person. This is generalized discussion.
Right.
So sometimes people take it for their own case or scenario,
Right.
which is not right.
Right. So, to all the listeners, don't apply this advice directly to your case. Your case can be unique. So, it is on you to reach out and take proper guidance and assistance specifically for your requirements. So, there we go.
Yeah. And lastly, I want to add that SME or I should not be held responsible for any damages, physical, intellectual, personal, or mental, for this discussion. Okay, so there's a second housekeeping item is that this discussion is based on my experience.
Right.
And I have worked in the research industry for 15 years. So based on my experience, my interviews with the clients and the person, and it's not the only option which I'm suggesting here.
Right.
It might be one of the option, and it might be aligned to what I am doing. Like I am a financial advisor, so my suggestion is aligned what I am providing to the businesses.
Right.
And last one assumption. we are in aggressive taxation. Canada is one of the aggressive country for the taxation purposes. So marginal tax rate is different in different provinces. So I assume that for this discussion purposes, MTR, which is called a marginal tax rate, is 50%, and it is realistic. I mean, it ranges from 45 to 57% for the ease of calculation and for understanding of the listener audience. So we will take as MTR as 50%. Now come to your main question, basically. So salary to entrepreneurship. So before getting into this, I just basically very briefly explain the whole corporate culture here. There are two types of entities. One is not for profit and other is for profit. Not for profit is basically that normally it happens that they generate the money, but their main focus should be, and in most cases it is, to pay back to the community, which is not our scope today, is out of scope. Second is for profit. For profit means you are doing something to make money. So that is in our scope and today. And then we say make money. There are two ways to make money. First is money works for you, and the second is you work for the money. Money works for you, again, is not scope, but that means that if you get the money, like you won the lottery $1 million, or you inherited the money and then you spend that money or invested that money in stock, shares, or in any business as a silent partner. And the money is growing day and night. You are sleeping, but money is growing, so you are making money. That means money is working for you. Again, that's not the main discussion here. So now we come to the main part, which is you work for the money. So it starts in, especially here in everywhere in the world, but in North America, it's when the young kids in high school are in the university. So they start a few hours to get the tuition fees or something. For me, and I basically, when sit with anyone, advise them, this is not only to make money. This is the learning curve, which is very important for the kids. Because what happens before that day, they have the parents' credit card. They just go, they buy things, and they don't know.
They don't realize the value.
Yes. So when they work 3 hours, 10 hours, 2 hours, it doesn't matter. They go buy perfume, game, anything. They realize, okay, for this one item, I have to work that many hours or that many days. So that is the part, learning curve. That's why that's very important. And I always say, as soon as in your career, if you start respecting the money, you will be successful earlier. So that's, and then of course, when you complete the study, you start a job. It can be hourly or in salary based. But in both cases, you get a limited money. Putting aside a little bit appreciation, I mean, sometime you might get a 2-3% raise or something, but in generally what happens, doesn't matter if you're hourly or on a salary. If you're working hard and I'm a lazy person, end of the day, we both get almost the same money at home. So first rule established, hard work will not pay you anything extra. Second, if you are, I mean, of course, if you're hourly, you get a 4% vacation pay, and if you are a salary, you get a couple of weeks. But putting aside again this thing, generally, if you have to go back home or you're sick for the longer period of time, you will not get the money. So second rule is established here. What? If you are not working, you are not get money. Third thing is the taxation, which is aggressive. So if you make $100 on salary or hourly, so we decided assumption of MTR is 50. So out of 100, you are taking home $50. So we are paying tax on $50. So these are the three benchmark which we will discuss further. So next step is then people realize, okay, why I'm doing this? Because I'm working for somebody else.
Yes, exactly.
And growing that person, why not I start something my own? So next stage comes when person start a self-employment or as a consultant incorporated, and then that person start working it. It can be a realtor, it can be financial advisor, it can be dentist, it can be lawyer or handymans. So in that phase, what happens? If you work hard, longer hours, and a realtor, you show more clients, or I'm dealing more clients, I get more money.
Right.
If somebody is lazy and it's only work 2-3 hours and then go home, one client sees.
They
so that
basically get money according to how much
hard
hours
work.
they are putting.
So if in this case, the first rule was, if you make more money, you work hard, you make more money.
Yeah.
So it's better than the first. But the second part is the vacation. Again, if you're a handyman or a doctor, dentist, lawyer, if you have to go back home or you have to take longer vacation, you're not getting money. So second rule is the same. If you're not working, you're not making money.
Right.
Taxation is little bit advantageous. Is that let's say again you're making $100, but in self-employed and consultancy, CRA allows you to make basically write off few expenses. So out of $100, let's say the grocery, if you're a food to grind, mortgage interest, utility bills, gas, maintenance, you can write off up to certain limit based on what percentage you are doing at home business or outside business, are you paying rent. So assumingly $30 you spend on that.
Right.
So 30 goes out of 100, 30 by 30, dollar by dollar. So rest is 70, and our marginal tax rate is 50%. So out of 70, you pay 35. So in this case, you are paying $35 tax, and you are utilizing $65. So it's better than the 50-50. And this is basically the first step into the entrepreneurship.
Right.
And now it comes to the last phase, which is really business. So in the business, what happens? You establish a business, you hire people, and then you set up a business. It can be a different categories. We don't want to go into detail, but generally, a group of people is working on something. So again, the 3 benchmarks. In the business, once it's established, of course, you have to work hard initially to set it up, but once it's established, then even if you go back home, you are out of the business, means you are not physically going daily to the business, still your business is growing, you are making money.
Right.
So
money is getting made in the background,
So you don't have to go to that business to make money. Second, the hard work. Hard work is, of course, if you spend more hours, more dedication, more efficiencies, you will work. So in this is advantage, hard work is advantage. You are not going, still making money. Taxation is better than even the self-employed, because let's say again we take the same example. If you make $100, so what happens? CRA allows you the same expense up to a certain limit, and it's additional. You can make some expenses, but assume the same $30. So $30 is write-off. Out of $70, you take home $50, and $20 you keep in the business. So corporate taxation is better than the individual taxes. So it's, I'm not going to into detail, but out of that $20, you pay less tax, and then only $50 which you take home, you pay 50%. So in this case, you are at least more than 65% you are taking home.
Right.
So this is the best scenario. So that's why if someone had done the homework and they are in salary and they see this, understand this thing, and then eventually they go to the entrepreneurship, because in that the money is saving here. It doesn't matter if you are a 200,000 job. I have so many clients which husband wife both are making more than 100,000, 120,000, but they don't have saving because they are paying 50% tax, and then their expenses is going with this passage of the income. Yeah.
Wow, a lot of information first of all, but very well articulated. Now, that's a very thoughtful perspective of understanding the why behind, starting your business. If you have the basic questions right, I think most of the work is done there. Now, your emphasis on clarity of purpose, it really resonates with our listeners as well. Now, Wajid, once a business is established, right, the next question is, what defines success? Now, let's explore that. Are you thinking about starting your own business or transitioning from a salaried role to entrepreneurship? One key step is understanding your why and building a solid foundation. Stay tuned as we dive deeper into strategies that can help you take that leap with confidence. Now, 67% of Canadian entrepreneurs say that defining measurable success in is their biggest hurdle, biggest challenge. Now, how would you define a successful business in today's landscape, and what practical strategies can, entrepreneurs use to both measure progress and drive sustainable growth? Like, what's the threshold here?
Yes, and again, this stats, if I just go back to 2024, there was 1.2 to 1.5 small businesses in Canada, right? And CRA considered a small business, the employees is from 1 to 50. That's
Right.
a CRA definition of the
Right.
small business. So you said 67%. So assume 1 million, so it's 600,000 are there. But on the same time, if you go on this different stats, 30% businesses fail in the first year
Right.
because the thought process behind the is again this is not part of the podcast, but the choosing the business is very important. And if you choose a wrong business,
Right.
I mean, we can do another full podcast on this, but what business you have to select, that is very important. And it's not like just you take it, there's a long process. So assumingly you decided the right process,
Right.
you pick the right business, now you want to make it successful, right? So there are three entities or three departments in the business. Your customer, clients, and then your product or services, and then your staff, which I normally call it culture.
Okay.
Culture-
Your client, your product, and the culture.
Yes.
Okay.
Client means audience and
Right.
client and customer. I mean, it's a different. It can be food business is a different case,
Right,
and
right,
if it's
right.
services is a
Yeah.
different. But three. So, how to measure the successful? First, you achieve the successful. Achieving the successful is very different for different people. Normally, what happens is again based on my experience. People think the entrepreneur people means the product and service is the most important thing, and that will lead to growth. And then second stage is client and customers. I explain them, no,
It's the other
these
way
are
around.
good. Only your staff. No,
Okay.
staff is the most important thing. If your staff is staff, when I say staff, is a whole culture. Our culture means people, building, environment,
Right.
work environment, and the management staff and junior staff relationship. Because, of course, I'm not saying the product is not worth, but think this way. If your staff is happy,
Yeah.
they will work hard to make a good product. If some customer or client comes, they entertain that client or customer best. So that person will go and they will refer so many. And Home Depot did the study, I think 20, 25 years, I attended that. They said in the Home Depot
Yeah.
does not sell tires, but they return the tires. It happened. It's an actual fact because somebody came to them and they said, I bought the tire from here.
Yeah.
That person said, no. They called the manager.
Yeah.
Manager said, okay, how much cost? I'm cutting it short.
Yeah.
He gave that is $400, whatever. He just gave that customer $400 and then take back the tires. Home Depot never sell these, of course,
Of course, yeah.
because they studied at that time. Now maybe it's more because due to that social media and other stuff. They said their research found that if one customer is unhappy, that customer will basically pass on to 64 different customers.
Yes. Bad
which
mouth
will,
you.
yes,
Yeah.
bad mouthing. So that's why if your staff is good and happy, that will lead you to other two happy customer and better and most, better or more good products basically. So that's why the success starts when you start better culturing your atmosphere.
Oh, that's a beautiful perspective, a beautiful take. I think a lot of the people who have, sat on this chair have actually repeated what you've said already, that your employees are the biggest asset that you can have. If the company grows, it's because of the employees and the effort that you put in the work culture and the people who are working for you. The product and service, obviously, it is a big role, but it comes second. It's the people who are working hard for you. Great. Now, for businesses to scale, what do you think, Wajid, are the actionable steps, ready to take advice that people follow after listening to you, after listening to this podcast, especially talking about prioritizing the expansion part of it? If you talk about without compromising their core mission. Because what I realized is a lot of the businesses, they start with a mission, but as they go into the journey, the mission, it, somewhere falls behind and other things come into play. So what's your take on it? How should businesses expand with keeping the mission at the center stage?
Okay. Again, my take is very different on this too. The expansion is two ways. One expansion is that you have two products.
Yeah.
You come next month, next year, next time, you four product. And the second growth is that you making 1 million revenue, you go to 2 million, right?
Right.
So for getting to 2 million, it's not always the more products, because I can give you an example because I cannot get name, but I was sitting with the one it's few years back. So that company was making four things, but they were not justifying those four things. So sometime they cut the two products, they focus on only on two, and and I mean, in my opinion, I said this is expansion. A lot of people see no, they are
Right.
not expanding. So
But
again,
focusing on specifically those both
yes, because
products,
if you
yeah.
can handle it,
Yeah.
it's fine. But sometime, I mean, there's a very, well-known proverb that sometime you have to take a couple of steps back to
Yes,
jump further,
of
right?
course.
So same thing. So of course, that's again, it is depending upon the one's particular case. But expansion can be in many ways. But the main thing that entrepreneurship or business should consider, that don't jump here and there. If you want to expand, you have to be expand in an area where you are comfortable. I give my own example. I'm an financial advisor, right? We provide insurance and services. You come to me and you say, I need a life insurance, or we discuss something. And then at the same time, during discussion, and then you say, I have the investment, RSP.
Yeah.
So if I, let's say, in a lot of in our office, they have only life insurance license,
Yeah.
right? They are not dually licensed mutual. So if you come to me, I mean, every person need both type of things, insurance and investment. So if, let's say, those person, which I'm saying I'm already dually licensed, but let's say they are only one license, they want to expand it, so they don't have to go and buy the something else store.
Right.
No, they think that, okay, I'm doing this, what goes with this
Complements it. Yeah.
complements it.
Yeah.
So if some client come to me, I can entertain, or I can basically service that person in more ways.
Right.
So that's the best thing. When you're thinking of the expansion, you just don't jump that, okay, this person is making money, why not I go this, I start this second business. No. Try to focus what you're doing and what you are experienced and expert on that. So what goes aligned with that, only choose that thing. Because otherwise, if you're jumping here, then it's basically starting a new business, and sometimes that's very dangerous, because whatever profit you are making here,
Right.
you're going to lose there.
Right.
So expansion is very important, but always consider what you are expert in or what you are already doing it.
Great advice. I think it all boils down to thinking about why do you want to start something? Why do you want to start a business? And I think if that clarity is there, you would not go jumping around, hopping around, starting just new startups without any reason, right? Great. All right. We'll be right back with insights on retaining talent in small businesses. Stay tuned to learn strategies for building and keeping a strong team. Welcome back, listeners. Let's dive into how small businesses can retain their best employees and create a supportive work environment. Now, let's explore the retaining talent part of it. First of all, tell me, in your journey, in your experience, how difficult do you think is finding top talent, especially in Canada?
Okay, finding top talent answers my other question, and you will get the answer of this question too. Retaining because in
Okay.
retaining.
Okay.
So when we say retaining, so normally what happens? You are a good employee, right?
Yeah.
You come to the HR and you say, increase my pay or salary or whatever rate, right? So a lot of businesses, lot of people I met, they say employment is, a few years ago, up to 7%, 9%. We will find the second person or the 10% in line. This is the biggest mistake any businessman is
Yes.
making. Because what happens, assumingly, there's two ways. Let's say, give the number. You are making her 50,000, right? You say, okay, I need 60,000.
Mm.
That employer said no. There's two options. Either the employer will get a person or 40,000,
Right.
they are happy. There's a chance that they might not get 50 and they have to pay 60,000 to a new person. But in both cases, they have to train the new person,
Right.
and they not only train the new person, they have to assign another senior person to train them.
Yes, it's the resources and
Resources,
the costs.
they are
Yeah.
using it,
Yeah.
right? So that effort, in the HR, they can see normally if they hire a new person,
Yeah.
their 3 month salary goes almost productless. I mean, they are not producing any
Yes.
benefit to the company,
Yeah.
and that's why they call it a probation period. So retaining is important, because getting a good employee is very hard. There is different ways to how to retain it, but that is the key. That if person is profitable mean what that person is doing is what you expected.
Worth the time. Yeah.
So never ever lose that person or talent for just few $1,000 or a few dollar rate, basically, if it's hourly rate.
Great. I think I personally resonate a lot with what you just said. And, in my experience also, I've met so many people who have this mindset of, losing a top talent just because of saving a couple of $1,000. But I think it all comes back to the company's loss at the end of the day, right? Because they're losing a person who genuinely cares about the company instead of just hiring anyone who is just doing a 9 to 5 job sitting at the chair, right? Great. Now, in your experience, is there any particular story or particular example where you, interviewed someone or you did the hiring process? And also, I'd like to know, Wajid, what role does guts or intuition play when you're hiring someone?
Again, I mean, my take is again different on this, because I did the hiring and not wishfully, but firing too here in Canada. I was a manager of IT, and then so again, it's not biased or not. I'm not into any discrimination, but sometimes HR thinks that way. I mean, I can give the example that I was in. I mean, we basically HR was also with me, so we were interviewing a Chinese girl, and then discussion happened, and I said it's fine. And then HR after that, she said to me, no, her language is not good and she cannot communicate
Communication skills
properly.
are not proper, yeah.
So I said, she's going to client meetings? No, she is dealing with me.
Right.
I can understand, because my back, it's a different culture, so our accent is different, and we can understand properly, right? So I say, I have no issue with understanding that. But the pay scale, what you are offering, if you are looking for something graduated from here, nobody will come. She is coming with the lot of experience. The only drawback is she cannot communicate very good, in your opinion, but she has skill more than what we are looking. So again, some managers are strict, some follow the HR, but I said, no, I need this person. So we hired her. And then after a few years, she was doing two people job. She was one of the best. Again, she was doing the front end and the developer. I'm a back end. My design is aesthetics and is not good. I cannot design things, but I can code or develop or architect things. But she was doing both. So then they realize and they say, yes, you are right. So sometimes that hiring person, especially take a footstep and they decide something which is benefit to the company, not what some HRs or something.
Right.
That's why I always encourage them, never ever HR hire anybody other than the HR. No, if they have to hire in marketing or something, that department's manager, VP or somebody should be sitting, and that deciding factor should be that person who is dealing with that
one-on-one basis.
Yes, in future. So
that actually makes so much sense what you said, and this is common sense actually. If you think about it, this is basic advice, but so many people, I think majority of the people are not following this. I loved your example in the story you gave. It's also about taking a chance on people. As you said, the communication was not pro, right? but she did not have to communicate with other people. She had to communicate with you in her job profile. So that is something that you took care of, and I'm very glad that you did, and I'm so happy for her as well and her growth. Now let's talk about the human element in businesses. With AI, taking the roles of literally everyone. What do you think? What will happen in the coming decade? Will AI take over the jobs, or is it a combination of human and AI?
I mean, of course, people are thinking they will speed up the process.
Yeah.
Some people say that a lot of people will be jobless, possible, but they cannot take over the human because what's the AI stands for?
Artificial intelligence.
Artificial.
Yeah.
So where is the real intelligence? Your brain.
Exactly. You're the one controlling it.
Yes,
Yeah.
artificial intelligence, and then sometime they call it machine language. What is machine? Machine is a box, computer,
Right.
right? So who can think out of box? You. Machine can think inside the box.
Right.
So artificial intelligence only, in my opinion, can speed up the process. Of course, I mean, if you chat GPT or these AI tools, you need something.
Right.
In past, maybe it takes days, hours, but now in few seconds you get the information. But
Exactly.
deciding factor
The
is-
prompt is the
The-
person
yes.
that's giving the prompt
Yes.
is you. Yeah.
And I give you, I mean, it's not directly related, but I will give you one example. This self-driving cars.
Right.
So if self-driving car is going on the road and there's a small street coming to that, and one kid is on this bicycle is coming, when self-driving car is going, its camera might see that, but they will not react it because they assume a lot of cars, objects going on.
Right.
But suddenly that boy
Is
comes
hit.
in front of it.
Hmm.
Auto driving car, most probably they will hit the brake,
Right.
emergency brake or hydraulic brakes, and they will save that. But what happens? The passengers or products inside the car, they might hurt it. And the same time, if you are driving it,
Right.
and when you are driving it, you can see the child is coming and he's not slowing down. So mentally, you are prepared that he might come to the road.
Right.
So you already
action
take
faster.
action fast before that,
Yeah.
because that automation only works when something in danger,
Right.
but you can sense it.
Right.
So this sense is a human sense, human touch.
Humans can analyze the situation
Yes,
better.
same thing in all these businesses. I mean, sometime if you ask ChatGPT, I mean, there's a different way. Sometimes ChatGPT is, I mean, if you ask the financial services related, they have the rules of few years back. So that's one drawback. They are not sometimes up to date for the particular cases.
Mm-hmm.
In generalized terms, yes, they can basically give you the summary, but not in particular cases where the numbering is matter, the taxation or these things, what's the allowable, non-allowable. But even if you get that, but they will not see what going to happen to your business or what happened in the past. But if it's a personal touch, so that's why when people or businesses deal with some consultants,
Yeah.
they study each and every department and then they give the decision. They are not just whatever they feed them,
Right.
they spit out something. No. They basically, I mean, of course, they're consultant. I'm not debating on that. But whenever someone asks me something, initially I am quiet. I don't respond because I don't know the culture of the business or not what they are going.
Right.
I say, if you want to ask me something,
Hmm.
I have to spend you, business, I mean, every department, time, shadow you, manager or somebody, and then I will realize where you can improve it or where you
Right.
can change things. Whatever you are explaining, if you are so smart, so what are you explaining me? You just enter this to Chat GPT or so they will
And
give you a
get a
solution.
result. Right.
So what you are explaining is not the right way.
Hmm.
That is what you are thinking of happening in the business.
Right.
It's not maybe the fact. Fact is when you interview, I mean, you means anybody goes there, interview each and every person,
Right.
they get the inside of the business, and
They
that
get deep into the business.
deep,
Yeah.
and their fact, because sometimes the owners or the entrepreneurship business owners, they don't get the real picture.
Hmm.
It's both ways. I mean, the employees are not dishonest. Sometimes they are not explaining the basics, and
Right.
there are so many issues, but they're ignoring it. Okay, it's going fine. It's nothing happened, but the outsider will intervene, and then they can decide on these things.
Great, you're spitting some real truth bombs, I'd say here, which I'm sure are very beneficial to the listeners. Now, I was reading a statistic, and Salesforce study shows that 72% of consumers they prefer businesses that prioritize relationships over just mere transactions. Now, Wajid, what do you think sets agents or brokers like yourself apart from online automated platforms when helping families and businesses? One, you mentioned the deep personalized touch. Second, on top of your mind, in one line, and if you just had to explain, why should someone come to a real human person except just go to Google and get advice?
The same thing which I said, because Google can give, because always consider this thing, cheapest is not always the best,
Right.
and it is not always the right choice for the person, because that's automated tool, what they do, they basically give you the cheapest option
Right.
or something,
Right.
but human touch give you the best and efficient way to do something based on your own circumstances,
Right.
which is very hard, at least now. I'm not sure what happens in 10 years. It might improve definitely, but right now, all the automation tools cannot give you the emotional touch. Although they are adding it, when I mentioned the research, we did in the research emotional touch also,
Mm-hmm.
and I give you the example. In the research industry, now is everywhere, but when we did, I think in 2013 or 14, the Colgate and other studies, we realized we did more than 1 million surveys, interviews online.
Mm-hmm.
People lie. Lie means they don't lie, but their action lies. They say we buy the product based on their features,
Yeah.
safety, and it is lie.
Okay.
And they don't realize, because when we analyze, they buy the products based on the emotional decision.
Right.
The kid on the ad looks
The marketing,
nice.
yeah.
Marketing.
Yeah.
This feature is not important. It looks nice, packaging nice. It's a family oriented. It's a family. The picture of this family is there. Kid is there. Because what happens? Whatever they say on the top. Because if you ask why you buy features and safeties,
Yeah.
everybody.
Yeah.
But when we go deep in the interview, they buy based on the whatever presented to them.
And I think that's true for every industry, not
Yes.
just this, right? People, they often resonate with stories, and marketing usually uses storytelling as a tool,
Yes.
right? So whatever they feel emotionally attached to, they go buy that. And a lot of the marketing companies are actually doing this intentionally.
It's true, and
Yes.
no, it's why they are doing, because emotional science. I have many time discussion with a PhD in emotion, is a University of Toronto professor. So emotional behavioral science is a field. People are doing PhD in that,
Right. Yeah.
because it's, of course, it's a marketing. Again, I'm not saying this is bad thing, but it's misusing, or you can say it's misleading people, because then they go, instead of finding the better product, they're
Yes.
going better looking things.
Yes, exactly. Yes. So it might work, it might not work in your favor, actually, right? When you think about it.
That's why you need a
Yeah.
human touch.
Yes.
That's why someone says, okay, what you see is not good for you. Everybody's saying this thing is good.
It has
but
to be good internally as well.
Yes,
Only,
it will
yeah.
benefit you in some way. It's not only cosmetics.
Right.
Basically, you need something which benefit you or your business, basically.
Wow, very nice discussion. Wajid, before we let you go, we'd love to hear more about your free coffee meetings initiative. So, just very quickly, let our listeners know what it's about and how can they be a part of it.
Okay, so one thing we basically, did not touch, so I will touch in this. Free coffee meeting mostly is initiated few years ago for the individual personal,
Mhm.
but I now add to the business part of it. So one thing is how to retain the best employees.
Mm.
So for best employee to retain, there are so many ways.
Yeah.
So that's the one thing where normally businesses don't focus on it. Again, what we discussed, that they say
The
there's a
retention
lot of
part of it. Yeah,
lot
yeah,
of talent available. So
Yeah.
but if you have some business and some key person is very important, so how you retain? Because one KPI, the key performance indicator, is the retention of the employees for the success of the business. So what people do, they ignore this part.
Right.
So how do you retain? That's we discuss in the, as individual or the business in these coffee meetings, and it can be online too. Then you have to buy your own coffee. But still, this coffee meeting, what I discussed them, how you can retain it. So there are so many ways. So I will just align with my own services. Let's say you have the business and your employees. So there are so many ways. One is to you give them more incentives.
Right.
But the drawback of that is if you raise that, they can go somewhere else. So they can get a little bit. So to retain, you say, okay, you are working with me. There are so many ways. I give few examples. So I'm not giving you the raise. Let's say you ask $10,000. I give you 5,000, and rest 5,000 I will invest on your name on somewhere. If you stay for 3 years, you can take 50% of that money. If you stay 5 years, you can take that, or you can give a common or preferred shares that, okay, if you're staying, I will give you 2% in the company's stake. And but that is basically you can exercise that shares after 3 years or 5 years. Another very good example is that it's not popular in the small businesses, but I should encourage them, the pension plans.
Mm-hmm.
Because the pension plans is very simple. One is that employer match it. So they can say, okay, you are the new employee.
Right.
You can contribute to your pension plan. I am not matching it. But if, let's say, you stay for 1 year, I will give you the 2%. If you, whatever you contribute to that, I will match 2%. And then they can say 3 years, 5% and 7%. 7% very standard. Big companies are doing it. So they can retain it. So they encourage them. If I go outside, so I'm losing the 7% increase already, because 7%. And then there's, of course, the benefits, which is very common because nowadays OHIP, is covered only these basic things. Because before it was out of promise was covered, but last, I think, 4 or 5 years, government stopped this. Now OHIP only cover in Ontario. Even if you go out of promise, some other promise or US, they don't cover. They cover very limited.
Mm-hmm.
So benefits is one of the things that, again, you can pick different categories. If you are a new, you get, let's say, 70% of the drugs or something.
Right.
And if you stay longer, and after 3 years is 80%, or after 5 years, 100%. So these type of perks basically encourage people to stay here. If they go, they have to start from the zero.
Right.
And there are so many things. There is, insurances, key person insurance, how to make business successful, or how to make business going bankrupt if some key person leaves. So this is very low in small businesses.
Right.
People think, small businesses, but they think that this is a wastage of the money.
Right. There's no ROI on it.
Yes. No, but that's what I'm saying. So this is a very big misconception, because this investment give them big time.
Right.
They save so many things which normally business faces of the turnaround of the employees.
Right. So it's a mindset shift that we need to focus on. Employee retention can be a game changer for small businesses. Did you know that creating a purpose-driven workplace culture can significantly improve retention rates? Let's explore how you can implement this in your business for long-term success. Now, Wajid, before we finally conclude, if there's one liner piece of advice that you'd like to give to the listeners out there, what would that one sentence be?
2 sentences.
Okay.
Okay, so the successful business, normally what happens in the initial phase, you work in the business. Means, so once business is set it up, so then you work on the business. So when work in the business mean that out of all the jobs, I go and I, where needed, I help them, I do this service. Once you set it up, then you have to focus more on the business, not in the business. On the business means you start improving the processes, automation. And there's one thing which is very common, that sometimes people in the businesses, they think that you are fine with doing one task daily. No, if some person is doing same task again and again, there is something wrong.
Right.
I'm
It's
not talking about
repetitive.
this
Yeah.
packing up the food, but in the
Definitely.
corporate environment.
Yes.
Because if that person is doing same thing again and again, what happens? That two things: person will get bored,
Right.
and there's no growth. They will leave.
Right.
So think of automation of that thing. So once you automate it, it's grow. And then if you write down all the processes, so make the document of that. And this is the end of that entrepreneurship, because you are now handing over the booklet. This is a document you can go and run, which is called franchise.
Right.
So that is the ultimate, that you have a document. Anybody interested in this business, this is the turnkey operation, this is the document,
You can just take it.
and
Yeah.
that is called franchise. And this is where real money starts. You don't have to do anything. You get the royalty, and you are basically getting more and more incentives. Yes.
Wow, that was some really practical and really useful advice, Wajid. Thank you so much for coming here and sharing your insights with us today. It was a absolute pleasure having you here. Thank you.
My pleasure. Thanks. So nice of you.
A very special thank you to Wajid Ahmed for joining us today and sharing his journey from a salaried professional to a trusted entrepreneur. Please contact Canadian SME if you'd like to have a conversation or an in-depth analysis based on your own business or scenario. Here's what we covered: the motivation and steps to start a business, what defines a successful business, how to grow strategically while maintaining sustainability, and practical tips for retaining employees and balancing technology with a human touch. A very special thank you to our podcast partners, RBC, UPS, IHG Hotels and Resorts, and Google for their continued support of supporting small businesses in Canada. For more insights and inspiring stories, visit CanadianSME.ca, and don't forget to subscribe to our podcast and our magazine for future updates. Kripa Anand signing off. See you in the next episode.